What's up, guys? I'm a somewhat late SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for July 18th, 2022. 3.17.2 is now in open PTU, which means it's available to everyone, but again, it's on the PTU. Squadron 42 updates are now more important to Star Citizen than Star Citizen's own updates, and will Star Citizen have 100-player servers? All that and more on today's Week in Review. And as always, if this is your first week in review, this is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news each week, put it into one video, and share my opinions as well. I also live stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/SaltEMike. Stop by and say hello, starting at 6:30 a.m. Eastern time every day but Monday, so I can get this video out to you guys. A lot of you guys have stopped by, and thank you for doing that. I also have a second channel, SaltEMike 2, where a lot of the things that I get a lot of time to think about and go over in this video today, I see for the first time, and you get my first impressions on the SaltEMike 2 videos where I react to ISC, SCL, and some other content creators videos as well. So check that out if you guys haven't yet. And yeah, we got a lot to get through, so let's start out with the patch notes. Now, like we stated earlier, all of these patches are on the PTU. Nothing has gone live yet, and we start out with patch 3.17.2K, which is more of their basically actor desync fixes and trying to improve it and make it better. And then they also fixed a number of bugs around automatic reload, actually reloading, turrets at bunkers spawning in the appropriate amount of time instead of instantly, and a lot of fixes around the new derelict reclaimer missions. And then for the L patch, they boosted the tank's health. The Nova tank was basically one-shotting each other, and it wasn't very realistic, I guess, although it seems kind of realistic to me. And then they're trying to improve frame rates in storms. Now, I don't know about you guys, but my experiences in Star Citizen are either in complete darkness or in a storm. I think the way to improve storms is to have them happen less often. Let me know in the comments below your experiences on that. Then we had 3.17.2M, which is where they dealt with some GN Scout fuel issues. They reduced the health of the tank because they went way too far in one direction on the last patch, and then crash recovery should work. Now, this is an experience I've been having. I talked about it last week, where since 3.17.0, I've been crashing nonstop, never getting a crash recovery, and unable to return back to the server I'm in, even if my party member is there. Very frustrating. That still happens to me even after this patch. Then for 3.17.2N, they buffed the Ursa rover so it wouldn't die as quickly, probably as a result of the tank changes. And then one change I'm really excited for, especially with Jumptown coming, is they buffed the railgun's damage. So this is really exciting because that nose down ship at any location when you're on the ground is going to have a hard time with vehicles and now players with the railgun. So I'm really excited for that. And that leads to probably the best news, which we alluded to at the beginning of the video. The patch is open to everybody, which is really exciting. And they also did a very interesting test today, which is why the video's late. They did a player test of 100 players in a server, and it went really well. Captain Burks was streaming. I joined in his party, and it went fantastic. My frame rate was pretty good. The fights were great. My hit reg was good. It went really well. Now, the issue here is, when is this going to go live? It's also coming with a wipe. A lot of people are asking those questions, and Aaron and Chris Roberts sent a message to the Australian Bar Citizen event and let them know kind of how things are going. And if you trust these guys on dates, here you go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome from moderately sunny Manchester.
Yeah, we're in our Manchester studios right now, where we are just working with a bunch of the other people around the world to get 3.17.2 at the door for you guys as soon as possible. I think we're probably, hopefully, no more than 7 to 10 days out, but we'll see.
Yeah, but you guys can check it on the PTU. But we're calling to say have a great Bar Citizen this weekend in Sydney.
So it sounds like it may be a week or so here on the date. But again, this video was posted a couple days ago, so probably targeting this weekend. Now, the issue here for me is the patches have been more stable, but the issue is now that it's stable, I'm finding a lot of little annoying bugs that I would love to see fixed before it goes live, because we're going to be stuck with 3.17.2 for a minimum of 2 months, probably maybe more, because 3.18 is going to be in testing for a while. So we want this patch to be as good as possible. I hope that they're right, that they're waiting a week, maybe a little bit more, get this thing really smooth as best they can. And yeah, let me know what you guys think. Do you want 3.17.2 out right away? Do you want to just play, or do you want them to take their time and fix it, even if it's going to have knock-on effects for 3.18, maybe taking a little bit longer? Next up is something I thought I'd never cover in these weeks in review, and that's the Squadron 42 monthly report. And the reason why we have to now is nearly every team who used to work on the PU is essentially working on Squadron 42, and one day, whenever that is, the content will move over to the PU and Star Citizen will improve. So checking out their updates is and should be indicative of Star Citizen's development now. And they started out with AI tech where they're prototyping fauna behaviors and animations. So all basic stuff here, nothing crazy, but in the end, the Star Citizen universe really needs to feel more alive. And it's an element that Star Citizen, I think, needs really badly. So it's refreshing to see them actually working on it. When it'll come over to the PU, again, no idea. Animation. I included this section for really only one reason. It's very much an example of what I just said. Everything in this update here was on a Star Citizen roadmap at some point, I feel like, and now is being worked on, but not on the Star Citizen side. So it's kind of cool to see this, and also I really want to see a character that has too much gear or is carrying too much, and see what a weighted down character looks like. Weapons art. The Volt weapons are being worked on. These were actually seen on previous sneak peeks. It is also seen on this week's sneak peek, so we'll share the sneak peek here. What's also cool in this update is they talked about gadgets. Things like a riot shield and other gadgets are all things that we've heard about in Star Marine for many, many years now, but the devs have been talking about them a lot more lately, so it sounds like, you know, there might be some progress going on there. And then for UI, they talk about some of the more frustrating elements of the game for me, which is UI that you use in combat, so your MFDs and your visor on your ship, and I find that to be really important, as well as the new star map. And then lastly, VFX. Nothing really too important here, but it does give the perfect example of Squadron 42 influencing content in Star Citizen. So this was definitely a Squadron 42 update that is now creating the Reclaimer vehicle munching, which is very, very cool. Now, there's no ISC this week, but on SCL, Jared did share when ISC does come back on July 28th, what we're going to be seeing. So, yeah, let's hear what Jared has to say.
We'll have a look at the Centurion, which is the newest vehicle built on the Atlas platform that's coming to Alpha 3.17.2, and some new stuff that's coming in Star Citizen's next patch. I don't want to tell you about it yet. We'll see it when it comes to the show. Obviously,
the Centurion we've seen quite a bit of at this point, but I'm very excited to see what he doesn't want to tell us about. I don't know about you guys, but I want to hear a lot more about the cargo refactor. Now, SCL was all about 3.17.2. What we're going to see in ISC is about 3.18. So 3.17.2 with Todd Pappy, they start out with the first question, which is, I think, a big misconception with Star Citizen. They have a known issues list on all their patch notes, and I think it implies that they know that they're broken and that they're going to fix them. It doesn't. And Todd kind of gives some insight on that. For those of you guys that are kind of newer to the Star Citizen project, it's unfortunately just not how it works.
This is basically how we work, where we'll go through, we'll fix stuff as much as we possibly can, get the patch out, just because, again, we're trying to hit a date versus all the features are done and completely finished.
So the real key thing to note here is that they're on a time limit. Basically, a patch needs to come out at a certain time. This patch is already late. And they touch later on, and I won't clip that out, is that stability is more important than bug fixing. So they patched like crazy this time around because stability was the problem. They didn't patch like crazy because bugs were the problem, even though they're always the problem, right? So Star Citizen, again, is still very much an alpha, and everybody knows it, and there's going to be bugs. But there's some bugs and some issues with this game that I think a lot of us really want fixed, and a lot of those still persist, and it is quite frustrating. So I wish the devs at some time would meet us in the middle, but it just isn't realistic all the time, I guess. And then another thing that they touched on was something that I think started in 3.16, which was some commodities pricing, which is fuel and repair, being triggered by quantum. Will that continue to be iterated on in 3.17.2?
Not right now. I mean, the main goal for us was just to kind of test that out when we initially released it, but basically the game horizon and Tony have been focusing on other things.
Game Horizon, for folks who've never heard that term before, they're another company that we're working with that's helping us build Quantum.
First off, it's a massive bummer that they're not continuing on and adding to the system. Second, the studio that they talked about here, Astropub, I found the information from him on Twitter, is the people that made the star map, which is kind of interesting. So I imagine what's happening with that team and why they haven't talked to us about it is because it's not going to be player facing, would be my guess. A lot of the work that they're doing is probably on the back end and the UI UX for the developer that is going to be working with Quantum, not us. We're not using that system. It's a background simulation that is going to simulate Star Citizen's economy. We don't work with that. They do. Now, they did talk about that they were on other priorities. The only thing I can think of is an update to the star map in the Mobiglass. So that may be player facing. So sort of interesting. Star Citizen's history with other companies is not very great. Let me know what you guys think about that, but it's kind of scary. The next question was related to the lack of balance between the amount of money you can make doing missions versus the amount of money you can make running cargo.
For cargo and mining, like I still view them as basically like a squashed mission, like, you know, like, or a squashed game loop, just because for, in particular, like cargo or long hauls, like, you know, we're expecting that you're traveling through at least one solar system, if not multiple solar systems. And then the danger that would be included into that should be, you know, how we basically play that out and pay that out.
Todd Pappy did not get the question. The issue here is that there is no risk to the player at the moment for running missions, essentially. You just have your flight suit, you get that for free, and the only thing you lose is time. Players who do cargo, not necessarily mining. Mining is very similar to missions where the money appears out of nowhere. Cargo, you take your money, you risk it to make more money. And that's kind of the issue here. They need to work on cargo missions, things like that. I think that's what this question was trying to pose, but I just want to get your mind going about this because it's incredibly frustrating that they haven't prioritized something like this, and hopefully post-cargo refactor, right? Similarly themed, though, people asked about the inventory.
For the inventory, we know it's a work in progress, but that team is focusing on S42 stuff. So like any of the updates, you know, we want to be able to select multiple things, move it over, you know, basically have stackables, so on and so forth. Like there's a lot of work that we want to improve the inventory with. It's just the priorities right now within the company are focusing mostly towards S42 on, in particular, that person.
One person seems really odd to be working on such a monumental feature. I'll say this over and over again. I agree with Squadron 42 being the priority. It's probably legal reasons and it's easier. There's all reasons why they're doing Squadron 42 first. I understand things are also in a work in progress state. The inventory is not in an acceptable state to be released to anybody public facing, period. It needs to have basic functionality, and it doesn't. The ability to move things back and forth. We talked last week about the difficulty in the logic of doing that. That's great. They still need to do it. It's very important, and I really hope they prioritize things like that in the future, because my personal preference is whatever it takes to bring the inventory to a better state, regardless of the delays to Squadron 42, would be my preference. It's not CIG's. It may not be some of yours, but it is mine. Now, similar to that question, they asked, does anybody work on Star Citizen now, or is it all just Squadron 42?
Basically, the way it breaks down is that we have teams that solely focus on S42, then we have teams that support both. But those support teams right now are really focusing on S42, and then we have PU specific teams. So currently, we have 3 different feature teams that are PU specific, so USPU, MFT, and EUPU. And those teams are working on like cargo, missions, hull scraping, resource management.
Things like the Siege of Orison's coming.
Yeah, exactly. So those are really what the feature teams focus on and work towards. And then we have content teams. So we have 3 EU content teams, and then basically kind of 1 to 2 content teams in Montreal.
You named off some teams. It's not a lot of teams, and that's not a lot of people in a 700-person company. It really tells you how much Squadron 42 is cannibalizing Star Citizen. It's quite insane. And the issue here is only this. We have not seen the fruits of that labor yet. The first time we're supposed to see that is salvage in 3.18. Whenever that happens on the PTU, we'll see those fruits, and we'll see if it was worth it. And I really hope it was. The last question, and I think the best one, is they asked Todd Pappy about combat logging.
So for logging out, basically there are plans for it, very similar to other games that have done it in the past, where if you've been in combat for, let's say, the past or within 5 minutes or anything like that, then you've got another 5 minutes before you can log out safely, or 15 minutes. Like we need to be able to sit down and tune that. It's something that CR's called out, something I've called out, basically player relations, Tony, so on and so forth. So like it is in the back of our minds. We are thinking about it, and it will be fixed soon.
Now, I don't know when soon is, but it is nice to see that every major person in the company is just as frustrated with the scenario as we are, but not frustrated enough to prioritize it as much as we may like, unfortunately. So don't know when soon is, but glad they're concerned with the issue. Just a couple quick hits that we didn't clip out is Crusader. They want us to be able to Quantum 2 and leave from the atmosphere a lot sooner, but the people who would do that are working on Squadron 42. Surprise, surprise. And then artifacts at the derelict outposts are just visual. They are meant to show us the age of the location, and they may not be sold for very much, unfortunately. I think that that's kind of sad. And then there were many other things, and like I stated earlier, SaltEMike 2, I did go over this entire video in its entirety. So if you want to see my first thoughts about nearly every subject in the video, feel free to check that out. Now, other updates was a little scarce this week, but I think the first update is the most important, and it's the Battle of the Bricks live stream. Now, it's going to be on July 22nd at 12 p.m. Eastern or 1600 UTC, and basically it's CIG devs battling EVE devs in a Lego build-off, and it's for charity, and the charity is Extra Life, and what they do is they take money and they spread it out across many children's hospitals. So if you guys have any expendable income, I really hope you spend it there and not on any spaceships or anything like that. Then there was an org spotlight for the Foundation Festival. So I hope you guys, some of your orgs got out there, and yeah, go check it out if you guys are orgless and are looking for certain types of orgs. They definitely gave a wide variety there, which was quite nice. For the lore post, it was basically a Ninetales portfolio, nothing crazy to add there. And then Patch Watch, another thing that wasn't too much to go over. They basically said all the bugs that were fixed in 3.17.2 from 3.17.1. You know, nothing insane. What was kind of insane is we hit 4 million backers this time around, or 4 million accounts, or however you want to look at it. It's still quite a big number, not considering how long it's been. I think a lot of other games have had way more success in a much shorter period of time, but for a niche game like Star Citizen, it's quite a big deal. And yeah, that'll do it for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'm looking forward to kind of seeing you guys come by the live stream, check me out, as well as leaving a like, comment. Let me know what you guys thought about this video. It was kind of a jam-packed week. A lot of stuff's going on, even though we're like this in-between stage with 3.17.1. We know a wipe is coming, and 3.17.2 being in the PTU. So let me know what you guys think about everything. If you're jumping in, what do you think about the 100-player test? Again, it went really well. I hope they stick with it. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next week. And hopefully it won't be so late next time.